Hello everyone. In this video I will discuss one of the films called Jung-E, and never forget that I always pray for you and your family to be happy and healthy always. This film is set in the future, where extreme climate change has led to rising sea levels, rendering much of the Earth's surface uninhabitable. Consequently, after years of research, governments worldwide decide to construct 80 new shelters built between Earth's orbit and the Moon. Over the next few decades, 90% of the human population gradually moves there. However, the remaining 10% oppose the plan and choose to stay on Earth. In the early years, everyone lives peacefully until eventually, groups from shelters number 8, 12, and 13 declare themselves the Republic of Adrian and ruthlessly begin attacking Earth and other shelters. This results in a major war between the Republic of Adrian and the Allied forces that span several decades. In the first scene, we are introduced to Captain Yun Jung-Yi, who is the most famous mercenary soldier from the Allied forces. She has led her team in many missions against the Republic of Adrian, always ending in victory. In her battle against robots this time, Captain Yun's attention is suddenly drawn to a doll, causing her to become distracted and shot in the hand. Here, it is revealed that she is actually a robot, which surprises Captain Yun herself. However, before she can understand what is happening, she is suddenly deactivated, and the entire area settings are displayed as a virtual combat simulation. It is then revealed that the robot is actually a cloned intelligence version of the original Captain Yun, who has been in a coma for 35 years. She was severely injured during her final battle, and because Captain Yun is the best fighter the Allies have, the government attempted to revive her by cloning her brain. After that, several researchers and scientists from a technology company called Kronoid approached the android to conduct various diagnoses. One of them is Dr. Seo Hyun, who is the leader of the research team and also the biological child of Captain Yun. Her main goal in joining this research is to honor her mother as a war hero rather than a failure. So along with many other researchers at Kronoid, they copied Captain Yun's brain data to then be installed into the android, and this project is known as Project Jung-E. Then, in a meeting with the Allied officials, the laboratory director named Kim Sang-hoon explained that through the simulation of Captain Yun's last failed mission, they had managed to extract battle memories that they could use to develop much better artificial intelligence. However, in every simulation conducted, for some reason, android Captain Yun always failed at certain points, which of course left the officials dissatisfied with Project Jung-E, and even made cynical comments about how Captain Yun could end the war with the Republic of Adrian if she couldn't even complete her last mission. Nevertheless, after the meeting, Director Kim informed Seo Hyun that the Allied officials still gave them the green light to continue the project as long as Captain Yun's robot passed the simulation tests. Next, after conducting several diagnostics on Captain Yun's robot, a new employee named Jae Kyung mentioned that he was a big fan of Captain Yun and considered her a superhero. This conversation led Seo Hyun to reveal that the only reason her mother became a mercenary was to pay for her medical expenses because Seo Hyun suffered from cancer when she was young. However, on the day Seo Hyun was operated on, Captain Yun was called for a mission that ultimately became her mother's last mission, leading Captain Yun to fall into a coma. After the conversation, Seo Hyun went to the medical facility to undergo an ethics test. This is a mandatory requirement for all Kronoid employees to help them distinguish between robots and humans. Unfortunately, their Seo Hyun received bad news where the doctor detected that Seo Hyun's childhood cancer had returned, and now she only had 3 months left to live. So the doctor advised her to undergo brain data transfer into a prosthetic body, which has 3 different types of processes. Type A would grant Seo Hyun full human rights, as when she had a human body and guaranteed by the government, but of course Type A comes with a very high price. On the other hand, Type B is slightly cheaper, but comes with limited rights such as marriage, freedom of movement and adoption. And Seo Hyun would also have to agree to sign a contract allowing the government to use her brain data, whereas Type C is free of charge and even comes with compensation. But Seo Hyun must agree to let the government sell her brain data, making her difficult to be recognized, as there will be many companies allowed to exploit Seo Hyun's brain data to create clones. During the journey, She recalled the moment when the Chronoid team visited her home to persuade Seo-hyun and her grandmother to sign the Type C agreement. Chronoid would exploit Captain Yun's brain and place it into robot bodies, and in return, the government would be willing to pay for Seo-hyun's school fees and living expenses with her grandmother. At present, Seo-hyun could only look at her aging mother, who was still lying in a coma. The next day, the 18th intelligence model of Captain Yun's brain was activated and ready for simulation. However, just before the test was conducted, Director Kim requested that they do something different from before. This time, Director Kim ordered the research team to shoot the right leg of android Captain Yun, which of course made Captain Yun struggle to act and easily defeated by the opponent. But before they ended the test, suddenly a new area of the artificial brain emitted a new yellow-colored wave that instantly revived android Captain Yun to fight back. This discovery certainly made the entire team very excited, especially Director Kim. So the next day, Director Kim took Seo-hyun and several other teams to go to the Chronoid headquarters to inform the breakthrough to the company's chairman. However, upon arrival, they were approached by the manager of the new product development, who informed Director Kim that the chairman was not in the office. Hearing this, Kim became angry and confused to know the reason why a military-based company needed a product department. After that disappointing attempt, the research team returned to the Chronoid laboratory to prepare again to simulate a new frame model that would be installed on Captain Yun's brain clone. However, at that moment, a staff member informed Director Kim that the chairman of the company was waiting in his office. For this, Kim along with Seo-hyun immediately went there, but just as they entered the office, suddenly Director Kim was deactivated, which surprisingly made Seo-hyun realize that Director Kim was actually just a robot and he was the first prototype ever made by the chairman of Chronoid Company. In that meeting, Seo-hyun quickly explained about the breakthrough they had just obtained. However, unexpectedly, the chairman of the company was not impressed with it and instead announced that a peace agreement between the Republic of Adrian and the Allied forces was currently underway, indicating that the civil war would soon be completely over. And since combat androids would no longer be needed, the company chairman ordered Seo-hyun to immediately stop the Jung-E project and to utilize all the data collected to create other intelligence that would serve household purposes. This information certainly disappointed Seo-hyun, as she had dedicated her life to trying to bring her mother back. In the next scene, the research team still continued the Jung-E project to draw the right conclusions. However, during the simulation, Director Kim became very angry and frustrated because android Captain Yun kept failing at the same time and location continuously. He then ordered his team to cut off Captain Yun's arm in the hope of reactivating the yellow area of her brain. But since that didn't work, Director Kim intentionally shot Captain Yun's leg again to try to force her to activate the yellow area in the brain clone. The sight made Seo-hyun unable to bear it, so she deliberately took control of the android Captain Yun and deactivated her. This certainly made Director Kim very angry, and he threatened to kill Seo-hyun if she didn't immediately reactivate android Captain Yun. Fortunately, at this crucial moment, a staff member came to inform Director Kim that the chairman wanted to meet with him. After the incident, Seo-hyun immediately realized that one of the android Captain Yuns had mysteriously been transferred by Jae-kyung. Feeling curious, she quickly went to Jae-kyung's room and was shocked to find the android almost naked. Seo-hyun immediately covered the android's body before attempting to attack Jae-kyung for his actions. Feeling cornered, Jae-kyung eventually revealed that what he did was actually a direct order from the headquarters, which planned to exploit android Captain Yun for sexual purposes. With the capabilities possessed by android Captain Yun, they could gain a lot of profit. This made Seo-hyun even angrier, but then she remembered that her mother's brain had Type C facilities, which would allow any company to have full permission to turn her into any desired product. Feeling disappointed, Seo-hyun went to meet Director Kim, who was also feeling frustrated with the termination of his Jung-E project. However, they still got permission to once again conduct simulation tests. Still, if they couldn't produce something conclusive, all their hard work and research would be in vain. After the conversation, Seo-hyun returned to the laboratory and activated the Jung-E model that had previously been destroyed by Kim. The android was severely injured, and the best option was to end its life. But just before Seo-hyun deactivated it, suddenly the yellow color from the brain area reappeared, and the android model surprisingly asked about the whereabouts of her daughter. The android showed human emotions and remembered seeing her daughter for the last time before going to the battlefield. Hearing this, Seo-hyun cried while informing android Captain Jun that her daughter's surgery went well. The android felt relieved, and she also remembered that her daughter had given her a doll just before the surgery, but now she had lost the doll. Hearing this, Seo-hyun immediately connected all the dots and realized that all the android Captain Yuns had failed in the simulation after seeing the doll near them. In the end, Seo-hyun deactivated the android and began to cry uncontrollably after emotionally speaking with her mother, interpreting that the clone of her mother's brain was almost perfect. The next day, before the simulation began, Seo-hyun, who secretly accessed android Jung-e, discovered that the yellow part of Captain Yun's brain clone was actually memories of her daughter, and this was the only reason causing the android Captain Yun to always fail at the same location and time. Therefore, Seo-hyun immediately deleted it permanently. Shortly after, the simulation began, and everyone appeared quite disappointed because this was their final test, and as expected, android Captain Yun was once again shot at the same place and time as before. After the test ended, Jae-kyung realized that the reaction of android Captain Yun's brain was now weaker than before, but Director Kim ignored this information and left the room feeling disappointed. However, shortly after, he sensed that something suspicious was happening, so he decided to return to the lab for a re-examination. Here, it was finally revealed that the last model of android from Captain Yun did not actually die from being shot, but only pretended to be dead. Director Kim immediately locked down the area and initiated an emergency alarm. With this, the last model of android Captain Yun suddenly resisted and rushed to escape. Director Kim, realizing this, immediately ordered his team to activate all existing combat prototypes of Jung-e. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Seo-hyun erased all the original data from her mother's brain in the central laboratory so that Captain Yun's brain would never be cloned again. On the other side, android Captain Yun arrived in a room filled with clones of herself. But before she could investigate further, the Jung-e prototypes sent by Director Kim began to arrive to try to capture her. Unfortunately, the continuous arrival of adversaries gradually overwhelmed android Captain Yun. Fortunately, at the right moment, Seo-hyun finally arrived to assist her mother and transferred the current brain of android Captain Yun into one of the Jung-e prototypes, successfully deceiving all the incoming police robots. This allowed Captain Yun, now in the body of the new Jung-e prototype, to easily escape with Seo-hyun on the transportation train. Unexpectedly, Director Kim was also on the same train, and upon realizing that Seo-hyun had betrayed him, Director Kim deliberately shot her. Enraged, Jung-e Captain Yun immediately fought back and managed to shoot Director Kim in the eye, where he finally realized that he too was actually a robot. They resumed their battle, but the situation worsened as more police robots arrived. At this point, it seemed like all hope was lost, but when Jung-e-yun saw her daughter injured, she gained new motivation to fight. Ultimately, Jung-e-yun transformed into a cold-blooded killer and eliminated all the robots. In the culmination of the battle, Jung-e-yun succeeded in defeating Director Kim with the help of Seo-hyun. Hearing the sound of more police sirens approaching, Seo-hyun asked Jung-e-yun to leave and live the life she desired. Reluctantly, Jung-e-yun gave her daughter a final hug and exchanged cheek touches as they used to do in the past. Seo-hyun also called Jung-e-yun mother and wished her luck before she departed. The film ends with Seo-hyun slowly succumbing to her wounds, while Jung-e Captain Yun gazes sadly towards the vast landscape. And that's it for the story series of this film. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to support this channel by subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video. Goodbye.